Somewhere in the mountains of the Pacific Northwest, a truck is carrying a single tree, one log, 10 feet thick, heavier than the truck itself, deeper in the timber. A tractor is dragging a giant that outweighs it many times over. Steel tracks against 500 years of wood. For 300 years, America's tallest trees were untouchable, too big to cut, too heavy to move, growing in mountains no road could reach. Then the machines came, and in 50 years, they changed logging more than the previous 300 combined. This is how machines changed the logging industry forever. In the 1800s, cutting a tree was the easy part. 2 men, a crosscut saw, days of work, but it could be done. The impossible part was everything after. A single old-growth log could weigh as much as 20 automobiles. To move it, loggers had exactly 2 engines, muscle and water. Oxen dragged the timber to the riverbanks a few hundred yards a day, and every spring, the thaw carried an entire year's harvest downstream. Millions of logs, herded by men who walked on the spinning timber with nothing but boot spikes and nerve. It worked. It built America's first lumber empires. But muscle and water had a hard limit. A river only goes where a river goes. The biggest trees in America, the giants of the high country, stood miles from any water deep enough to float them. Out of reach, until someone brought the Industrial Revolution into the forest. Starting in the late 1800s, lumber companies did something no railroad man in his right mind would attempt. They built railroads into the mountains, not around them, into them. Up grades 3 times steeper than any main line. Around curves a normal locomotive couldn't survive. Normal locomotives couldn't do this work, so the loggers got their own breed, geared locomotives. Machines like the Shay that traded speed for pure, patient climbing power. A Shay couldn't outrun a horse, but it could drag 100 tons of timber up a mountainside on track laid the week before, where the mountains refused to cooperate. The loggers built over them wooden trestles, 10 stories tall, built from the very trees they were harvesting. The forest became the bridge that carried the forest away. At the landings, a new breed of machine did what no crew of men could. Steam cranes, swinging logs the weight of a house onto rail cars, some so large that a single log was a full load. These railroads were temporary by design. When a valley was cut, the crews pulled up the track behind them and laid it into the next one. America built thousands of miles of railroad that were never meant to appear on any map. By the 1920s, the rails had cracked open forests the rivers could never touch. But the railroad had a blind spot. It could carry the giants out of the mountains, but it couldn't reach into the timber to bring them to the track. Inside the forest itself, the work still belonged to muscle, for now. The machine that finished the animal's work crawled in on 2 steel tracks. The crawler tractor was born in California, built by 2 bitter rivals, Holt and Best, who would one day merge into a company called Caterpillar. Tracks spread the machine's weight like a snowshoe, mud that swallowed wheels, slopes that broke ox teams. A crawler simply walked across. Loggers hitched them to a high-wheeled frame called an arch, lifting one end of the log clear of the ground. And suddenly, one machine, with one operator, could go to any tree on the mountain, hook a log the size of a locomotive, and walk it to the railroad. Then, in the 1930s, the crawler got a new heart, diesel. Twice the working hours on a tank of fuel, and torque that gasoline engines couldn't dream of. In the woods, the ox teams and the horse teams quietly disappeared. But the crawler's greatest trick wasn't dragging logs. It was building roads. A tracked tractor with a blade could carve a road along a mountainside in days, into country where a railroad would take months and a fortune. And that one ability was about to make the mighty logging railroads obsolete. The machine that would finish the railroads didn't look like much. The first logging trucks were fragile things, solid rubber tires, wooden roads built plank by plank, engines that boiled over on every grade. Loggers laughed at them. They stopped laughing in the 1930s. Better engines, air-filled tires, frames built for punishment. And one advantage no railroad could ever match: a truck didn't need track, it needed a dirt road. Exactly what the crawlers could now carve in days. It's no accident that America's legendary truck makers, Kenworth Peterbilt, were born in the Pacific Northwest. They were built to answer one question: how do you carry a 70-ton tree down a mountain and live? Tractor and truck became a team. The crawler built the road and brought the logs to it. The truck took them anywhere America needed them, mile by mile, valley by valley. The forest was losing its last defenses, but the machines that conquered the forest created a problem nobody saw coming. They were about to get much, much better at their job. After the Second World War, a new generation of machines marched into the woods, bigger, faster, and more powerful than anything the old loggers could have imagined. The chainsaw replaced the crosscut. A day of sawing became minutes. The crawlers grew into giants, machines with the power of 200 horses, carving roads to every ridge in the high country. And in the 1950s, the forest got a machine built for one job only: the wheeled skidder, articulated in the middle, bending like a living thing between the stumps, doing in one pass what a horse team once did in a day. Steel booms loaded the trucks in minutes. The mills ran around the clock. America was building suburbs, highways, and half the modern world out of lumber, and the forest supplied all of it. Whole towns lived on timber. For a generation of Americans, the log truck rolling down Main Street was the sound of prosperity itself. The first casualty of that prosperity was the railroad that made it possible. One by one, the logging lines fell silent. The rails were sold for scrap, and the trestles, built from the forest itself, slowly returned to it. And then the reckoning came for the forest. The machines had changed its mathematics. A tree takes 500 years to grow. A chainsaw fells it in 5 minutes. A skidder brings it out in 10. A truck delivers it by nightfall. The old growth forest that had seemed infinite, that had been infinite for 300 years, of axes and oxen, were not infinite against diesel. Through the second half of the century, the giants grew scarce, the rules grew tighter, and one by one, the mill towns went quiet. The machines hadn't just changed the logging industry, they had changed the forest itself. Today, the survivors are scattered across the Northwest. A handful of geared locomotives polished and steaming again on heritage lines, restored log trucks and old cats gleaming at shows, kept alive by the grandchildren of the men who wore them out. And the machines of the forest left their mark on everything, if you know where to look. Thousands of miles of old railroad grades became the logging roads and hiking trails that still thread the mountains. The crawler that learned its trade in the timber became the bulldozer that built the interstates. The trucks built for mountain timber became Kenworth and Peterbilt, the trucks that carry everything America moves. The forest didn't just supply the lumber that built this country, it trained the machines that built everything else. The tallest forests in America taught our machines how to work. And in the end, the forests outlasted the empire that cut them. Maybe that's the right ending for both of them. The machines that learned their trade in these forests went on to build the greatest road network in history, the American Interstate. That story is right here. If machines like these built the world you grew up in, subscribe to Heavy Machines Era. There's a lot more ground to cover.